Welcome to Let the Quran Speak. I'm Aisha, your host. Today, as part of our series on controversial issues related to women, let's explore a topic that has attracted controversy in countries around the world, the Muslim veil. Why do women have to veil? How come there's no veil for men? Let's sit down and discuss these questions and much more with Dr. Shabir Ally. Welcome to the show, Dr. Shabir.
Pleasure to be on.
So we're talking about controversial issues as they relate to women. Today we're talking about veiling. So what does veiling mean as defined by the Quran?
Well, to answer this, we need to define four terms. One is the term niqab. Niqab is simply the woman's face cover. And this is not mentioned in the Quran at all. The word there it does not get mentioned. The second term I would like to mention is khimar. Khimar is a head cover usually. And this is mentioned in the Quran in Surah 24, verse number 31. Tell the believing women to draw their khimars over their persons. So that's a head cover. Then there is a mention of jilbab, and in the plural jalabib. Jilbab is a large outer garment like a cloak. Some call it abaya, but the term used in the Quran is jilbab. And this may be a cloak that a woman wears over and above her house dress. So at home, she has a simple dress that makes it easy for her to get around and do her stuff at home. But then she's going out, she wants to be dressed in a little bit more in formal attire, in a more decent one for the public, and so she wears this outer cloak. This is called a jilbab. This is mentioned in Surah 33, verse number 59. Now, there is also in the Quran a mention of hijab, which generally is what people use nowadays to refer to the specific Muslim woman's dress. But in the Quran, it's not used for Muslim woman's dress. It's used to refer to a curtain in the house. So in the 33rd chapter of the Quran, it is mentioned that people come to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, because he was, in addition to being a family man, he was also the head of state, but there was no state building for people to come and meet him. They came and met him in his living room, and the living room was not separate from the living space of the private living space. And so the Quran directed the Prophet, peace be upon him, to draw a veil, a hijab between the living space and the meeting space and the private living space of his family. So the hijab here in the Quran actually refers to a sheet or a curtain in the house, but now it comes to refer to Muslim women's dress more generally.
So I think you've already started to talk about it, but how has the term veil in of itself, and I guess based on the four definitions that you've described, how has it evolved over time to where we are today, where it seems like hijab is the term that we use for everything?
Yeah, and of course hijab now, because it's a term that we use for everything, and then the translation gets to be veiling or veil, things get confusing because we don't know if somebody uses the term hijab, if they are referring to the khimar, the head cover, if they're referring to the khimar plus the niqab, the face covering, or they're referring to just the jilbab, a large outer cloak. So discussions get muddied and muddled in this way. So to be more specific then, we can use the term hijab or veiling as a general way of women conducting themselves in a modest manner that involves the manner of speaking, the manner of dress, even the manner of walking and general behavior and comportment. But this applies not only to women but also to men, because they are required also to go about themselves in a decent manner in their speech, in their actions, in their walk, in their talk, and in their dress. So it applies both to men and women. But obviously we know that the discussions about hijab generally center on the Muslim woman's dress, and then it becomes an issue in our modern time.
So I guess speaking to the issue, this is where the controversy, or one of the controversies, lies. Why is it that women have such a definitive type of expectation when it comes to a wardrobe, and men have it a lot more simpler? So that's one controversy, but let's start there.
Yeah, we can say that there are biological factors and also social and traditional factors. Biological factors may relate to the observation of some that men are generally more sexually outgoing than women are. women, especially in traditional societies, would have tended to be more passive and more the recipient of sexual advances rather than the originators. So the dynamic has been that man sees woman, goes after her, the woman either accepts or rejects his advances.
And this is based on historical context that you're talking about.
Historical context, but there's a certain amount of biology that is related to that as well. Are men generally attracted more to beauty or to other features in a woman? And think about the reverse. Is the woman generally attracted to the man's handsomeness, or are there other factors to consider? For example, will he be a good family man, a good father, a good breadwinner, one who is stable and expected to stick around and make the marriage last? So there could be different considerations between man and woman. So perhaps because of these different considerations, the traditional societies have found it more conducive to have women cover themselves up more. But they have found through their common experience that men are the ones who are more likely to be staring at the opposite sex rather than the other way around. So this is how things have evolved, with a combination of biological, traditional, and social factors that women generally cover more than men. Even in a modern society, you will find that women are expected to wear more clothing than men. Even on a modern beach where people wear very scanty clothing, a man may get away with wearing just one piece of clothing, and generally women will be expected to wear at least two pieces.
So I guess that still takes us back to the question of why is it that women have a specific expectation from an Islamic lens? Why is it for, a non-Muslim looking in, it seems like there are more restrictions on a woman's wardrobe versus a man's wardrobe, and I think that's sort of one of the bases for the controversy. So how would you address that?
And the mere fact that there are more requirements for the women's wardrobe would not have been an issue had it not been that the requirements are so extensive. And this becomes the issue. Commonly, if somebody was delivering a sermon in a mosque about the requirements of a woman's dress, that person may mention something like 8 requirements of a woman's dress. That it should be, number one, it should be full attire to cover the entire body except for the face and hands and feet, according to one school of jurisprudence. And some will go beyond this and say that, okay, even the face and the hands have to be covered, and yes, the feet as well. And how do you cover the hands? Well, the woman has to wear gloves if she goes out. And how do you cover the face? Well, she has to wear a face covering. That they will add, second, that the clothing has to be loose so that it's not clinging to the body and so on. So these are generally prescriptions that are mentioned specifically for the woman's clothing. And so it may happen that a devout family may consist of, husband and wife both being devout, and the children, they're walking down the street. The Muslim woman is distinctively Muslim by her very attire, but the Muslim man is dressed in a modern Western style of clothing. And if he were somewhere else, apart from being with his family, and especially if he happens to be a Muslim of Caucasian racial descent, then he would be indistinguishable from other Caucasians around him. So if we take somebody from Bosnia or something like this. So the Muslim man then blends in very easily with the society around him. And so if he's applying for a job, for example, and he already looks white and he's dressed in a modern Western style, the possibility of discrimination against him is less than in the case of a Muslim woman now applying for a job, and she's got the usual Muslim woman's attire. The possibility of discrimination is greater. And not only when she's applying for a job, but also when she's among people in general, and sometimes even around other Muslim women who are not donning the particular Muslim women's attire.
So this leads me to another point. According to an article in the BBC, the veil is also part of a wider debate about the idea of multiculturalism in Europe and an effort to better assimilate everyone together. So what would you say to that argument as well, which in and of itself is also a controversy, because in some parts of Europe, the headscarf is banned, the face veil is banned?
Yeah, well, there are different perspectives on this. One is the perspective of the non-Muslims who argue for the freedom of humans and human rights more generally. Well, this argument says that everyone should have the right to wear what they want, and the state should not impose any restrictions in this regard. But of course, this goes both ways. The Muslim woman should be allowed to cover as much as she wants, even to the extent of wearing a face veil. And on the other hand, women should be allowed to go about semi-nude, as if they prefer to do that, because that too is part of the same freedom. From the state point of view, they want assimilation, so they want everybody to be the same. They want people to blend in together, melt in all together, and pursue state objectives rather than individual objectives. From an Islamic point of view, we have to think about whether or not there are some restrictions which have been placed on Muslim women, or requirements which are not so firmly based in the Quran or in authentic traditions going back to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Could it be possible that in our tradition we have tended to impose more than is necessary, or there might be something good, but we insisted upon it so much that it became necessary, and though it was good, by making it necessary, we have actually turned it into an imposition, which itself is going beyond the mandate that Muslims have from the Quran.
I think that's an excellent point to leave everyone hanging and thinking about, so thank you very much, Dr. Shabir.
You're welcome.
Hey YouTube, we hope you benefited from this video. If you liked it, or if you didn't, let us know in the comments below. And if you're interested in learning more, check out some of our other videos. And don't forget to subscribe so you can get new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.